We're live. We're live here from the Country Club, and we're going to talk to Shane, who works for Prusa Research right now. I believe he's like support or something for the United States or some. He's some special dude. I don't know, but we're going to find out who Shane is, how he got to where he is, where he's been, what he's done, and then he'll answer your questions. So, you know how this works. If you don't, I'm sorry. I see some new names in here, but normally I don't interact with chat near as much on interviews. So we'll get to your questions at the end. So if you've got some, keep them, but just remember, this is a personal interview of a man who works for Prusa. This is not him giving support for Prusa. So just remember that. All right, Shane, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, and then we'll get into it, buddy.
Okay, thanks. What's up, Country Club? For those of you guys who know me, I'm Shane. I work for Prusa's tech support. And for those of you who don't know me, I work for Prusa's tech support. So usually I work from Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. to 12:30 a.m., Monday through Friday. So if you guys ever jump on the Prusa chat with a shipping issue or a technical issue, there's a good chance you're going to reach me. So that's who I am, and that's what I do. But as well to say, I work for the company and everything else, right? And I understand, I'm here being interviewed as me. So, it's kind of like one of those things where the news channels, they have the editorials. So whatever I say, it's basically my own views, thoughts, and opinions. Doesn't reflect anything on the company, the owners, or anyone who works there. So that's all the legal mumbo jumbo out of the way. But other than that, that's about it. That's who I am.
Cool, man. Cool. All right. So first off, we got to learn who Shane is. All right. So you, from what I understand, you hold multiple citizenships. Is that right?
Yeah. My mother was born and raised in Ireland. Okay. And in Europe, there's two countries. It's Italy and Ireland. If your parents or grandparents are direct descendants, you can apply for citizenship by those two countries' laws. And so basically, when I knew I was going to move to Europe, I got all the paperwork and everything else. And I am legally a U.S. citizen and an Irish citizen.
Okay. So where did you grow up, though?
Okay. I was born and raised just outside of Boston.
No, you don't.
Yeah, no kidding. From Boston. Yeah, so my mother was born and raised in Ireland, moved over here when she was in her late 20s, sorry. And she was here as a nanny and everything else. And then decided to stay here, met up with my dad at, she met my dad at a job she was working for. And my dad was her supervisor. And so I used to always give her crap. I'm like, ooh, you messed around with the manager and everything else. But yeah, I mean, they were happily married for the longest time. And surprisingly, they had me.
I was fixing to say, she thought she was going to get a promotion, but instead she got you.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? My mother is she's very, she's a devout Irish Catholic. And I'm like, you've had to have done something wrong. Look what you ended up with. You're being tortured for something.
So I got a question that leads right out of you being from outside of Boston. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you park your car? And are you afraid of sharks?
All right. So since this is a family-friendly show, I will save my answer for that. I'll tweet it because
it's funny, man, because in the eighth grade, okay, I had a best friend from kindergarten all the way through, and we're still really good friends. But in the eighth grade, a guy moved from Foxborough, okay? And we became best friends like in the eighth grade, okay? And from like 8th to 10th grade, we were pretty much inseparable, okay? And dude, when he got here, I mean, it was park your car in the garage.
Yeah.
And you hear how I talk. Well, and as I drink beer, I talk it gets even more that Southern draw. But he sounds just like me now. Okay. You could never tell. Now he can, when he drinks, you can hear that kick back in his voice. But now his brother and his mother, he had an older brother, and his brother and his mother and all that stuff was they still have that deep Bostonian accent. It's really cool because they've been here. I mean, that was 8th grade. So you're talking what, 30, 35 years ago.
Oh yeah.
And they own a really cool business and a really a staple business in Crawfordville, which is close to me. And it's really weird to go in there to this little country diner and you hear them talking in that Bostonian accent. You're like, oh yeah, you're not from here. Okay. So we learned you're from Boston and you live close to there now, somewhere in that area, I'm sure. So early on, you know, I don't know anything about your background. I mean, I'm sure you went to elementary and high school and all that stuff, just like everybody else. What did you do after that point? What was your road that you were traveling after that point?
Well, after high school, well, actually, my father, well, actually, first off, hold on. There was a 19 years age difference between my mom and my dad, right? So my father was, he used to serve in the U.S. Army. He actually served during World War II during the island hopping operations. He was in the cavalry division when they still used horses during World War II. So basically, I ended up, my father was always telling me like, yeah, go for the military, go for the military. I'm like, I don't know. I just want to, you know, I might be interested in everything else. At that point, he was like, my old man got very interested. He's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, well, I want to see the world, maybe the Navy. He's like, okay, we can make an appointment and go down and see them. What my dad didn't tell me, he sat there, he contacted the state selectman, the local town council, the chief of police, the chief of fire department, all for personal references. They all called up the Navy recruiter ahead of this whole meeting and everything else. And I walk in there with my dad, and the guy jumps up. He's like, I've heard so much good things about you. Oh my God, I can't, this, that, and everything else. I look at my dad. I'm like, what are you doing? So yeah, I basically ended up serving in the U.S. Navy. I was stationed over in Yokosuka, Japan for roughly about 4 years. Yeah. And if anyone ever goes in the military, well, I'm sure as you know, but if there's anyone watching, when they sit there and, you take all the tests and they give you the results and they give you, it's basically a series of cards that will tell you what jobs you qualify for and everything else. Right. I did qualify for Cryptotech. It's like a military hacker, that type of stuff. And if I could change one thing, I would probably have changed that, because I should have went into that field. Instead, somebody watched Top Gun one too many times, and I sat there and said, I want to work on jets. And that was it. Because that rate, I was in aviation bosun's mate equipment. So if you ever seen any of the military movies with the aircraft carriers, the guys who were hooking up the jets to the catapults so they take off, that's what I did. And yeah, they sold me hook, line, and sinker on that one, because you think car salesmen have it? No, Navy recruiters are the ultimate car salesman, because they sold that.
You talk about that. That was probably one of my worst decisions ever, was because I didn't ace the ASVAB, but I don't think I missed it like 3. Yeah, and they laid those cards out, and I said, no, never mind. All I want to be is infantry. Oops. Because I have an uncle that's like, I don't know, 6 years older than I am. So, we grew up together basically, and I looked up to him, and he was infantry, but box of rocks is what he is. So that's what I always wanted to do, because he had all these cool pictures and I thought it was cool. All these guns I'd get to shoot and all. And so that's what I did. I mean, don't get me wrong. I did more than that, but that's where I started at. So
yeah.
But anyway, so you did that and you got out. Okay. What was your, I mean, after that, being in the Navy and stuff like that, that job, I don't know what that prepares you for. But I know that you can move out of that job not too long after that. I mean, you don't stay in that job a whole long time. That's a new person job. Yeah.
I mean, like when it was time to, get out and they offered me to re-enlist, that particular rate, it just wasn't, I had no interest in it and everything else. The only civilian related job after I got out was to work in airport firefighter. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna pass on that. I don't want to be a baked potato and rush into a fire. I'm like, I'll
Right.
pass.
Right.
So, oh, go ahead.
No. So what did you pursue? I mean, did you? And I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but I didn't. When I got out, I had no idea. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I got offered a job being an underwater welder, and I looked at the life expectancy, and it was like 2 years. I'm like, nah, I'm good. So
no, I basically got out, and then I was just like, okay, well, I'm back in my hometown, and there's really nothing going on. So I had a chance to go to. I went to Georgia right after the military. I went down to a little place called Pelham, Georgia, as we already talked about before. Right. And I was working for a sign company down there. And what we would do is they had a lot of government contracts. So like, any like the signs that would say, any type of directional sign or, something for the toilet or anything like that. We would create them and everything else. So I worked in there for a while, just like cleaning it up and everything else.
I got a question for you. What was the name of that sign company?
Honestly, I would have to look it up because it's been like ages ago. I don't even want to like really go so much in the years because I'm like, I'll start there freaking out.
I worked for a sign company in Camilla, Georgia, which is 10 miles away from Pelham.
Yeah, this one I don't. Honestly, I would have to even just try to pull it up on Google to find it.
It's not the same. I'm talking the same year you were talking about.
Yeah.
That's where I was at. I mean, it was. We did roadside signs like the big billboards and stuff like that. That's what we did.
Now, this one was more for like office signs and everything else. So
I got you.
I don't think it would be the same one.
Well, he did a lot of vinyl and stuff like that, but it was. I mean, it was big. We put up big signs.
Yeah, but as you brought up before with the whole Boston accent, I kind of stood out just a little bit in Pelham. So. Right. Just a wee bit.
All right. So you work for this sign company. Right, and basically I'm just trying to take the road where you are now. So after that, I mean, Pelham, Georgia is a long way from anywhere except for here. It's only about an hour and a half from here, but that's where my wife's from. If those that didn't hear, my wife is from Pelham, well, right outside of Pelham, and went to school, graduated at Pelham High School in 1993. So, it struck me and it struck her too that you lived in Georgia because they said speck on the map. So, anyway, so after that, I mean, those jobs normally, they're transitional.
For the most part, let's see. After there, I went back up north for a while. What the heck did I do? I used to work for. I'm one of those types, what was it, Jack of all trades, master of none.
Master of none. Yes, sir.
So I ended up moving back home to take care of my folks because my father was getting very old. So I was helping him out for a while. And then I decided, well, he passed away and I was there helping my mom out. So I did a whole lot of different jobs. And most of it was working with people with mental disabilities, I guess you could. I'm trying to figure out the whole PC word of it now, but I did that for a while. Then I worked with at-risk kids, like gang kids. I worked in residential homes with them and everything else. And I'll fast forward to Prague, but basically, one place I was working for, they would get people from all over, but they would primarily get people from the Czech Republic.
Right.
So I met my ex-wife there. We were dating and everything else. Things got serious and we decided to get married after her visa ran up and everything else. But it wasn't like she was marrying me to get a visa. It was like we actually cared about one another.
Right.
So went to Prague. We got married. And at the time, if you got a U.S. embassy involved, it was a lot quicker than trying to go through immigration and everything else. I mean, it took us like 3 weeks for all the paperwork to do it through the embassy. If we would have done it here, it would have been 9 months.
Right.
So moved back here, was here for about 5 years. She got really homesick. We decided to move to Prague. So this was 2008, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So moved there. things worked out okay for about 2 years, and then we got divorced. And at the time, I'm like, well, it's gonna take me some time to save up to move back home. So I started doing different IT related jobs, support desk stuff for a while. So let's see. I worked for Exxon. I worked for Amazon. I worked for a consulting company doing internal support for them. And let's see. 1 year I sat there, I got a whole bunch of bonus money and everything else. And I was kind of dating this one girl, and she was going to come to Prague during Christmas time. So I had a whole bunch of money saved up, and I was going to take her out on a really nice weekend. She kind of sat there and went crazy on me and canceled the whole trip and everything else. So I had a whole bunch of money. I'm like, well, I'm going to treat myself.
Right.
And I'm either going to sit there and get a VR headset, or I'm going to get a 3D printer, because at the time I saw, do you ever see that video for Enable the Future? It's not through them, but it's something similar to that. It's this little boy, he has a little bow tie on, and he has a prosthetic arm, right? And so I forget which Iron Man or Avengers movie it was at the time, but they had Robert Downey Jr. He comes into, they set up for a special surprise for the kid. So he's in a hotel room. Robert Downey Jr. comes in dressed as Tony Stark, and he's the role of Tony Stark. And he presents the kid with a prosthetic arm that was all done up like Iron Man and everything else. And I really saw that, and I really wanted to get involved in something like that. So then like the whole VR thing went out the window. I started looking into 3D printing, and I started doing the research. And at the time, it was when the Mark II came out, and there was a lot of good reviews coming out. I knew it was a Czech company, but I didn't know it was in Prague.
Right.
So basically, I got it through a local retailer over there and had issues with it. And then I found out that Prusa was actually in the city. So I basically ended up, they helped me out with it and everything else. I was so impressed with it. And I started bothering them on chat and everything else. I'm like, hey, you guys aren't looking for anyone, are you? And so eventually they kind of caved in, and I would go in for interviews and everything else. And then I started working for Prusa January of 2017. And cool. So I was there for a while and everything else. And, kind of got that itch to, living abroad and everything else is great. And no matter how bad your home is, it's still your home, and nothing can really beat that. So, I kind of got that itch to move back home. Met up with my old ex, who's now my fiance, and so decided to move back to Boston. The guys at Prusa were cool enough to allow me to work remotely for them. So here I am.
That's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome. Now, so do you speak Czech? Or
there's only a very few things I can say, and I can't even say them much anymore. I've tried to learn Czech so much, but it's the grammar, because, okay, it depends on a few things. You have formal and informal. So if you know the person or not, if you're talking to a man, woman, or a child, or neutral, and so it's more about the grammar that would just completely mess me up. But it'd be like, oh God, if the guys from Prague watch this, they're gonna beat me up for the pronunciation. But Dobry večer, já jsem Shane. Ate? So it's good evening, my name is Shane. What's yours? Or what's your name? So that's about it. And I know how to order a beer in a pub. Because no matter
Robbie Mac said we only care about the cuss words.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go near there, because there's a fruit in English. It's peach.
Yeah.
Okay. But when you sit there and say, like, oh, how you doing? Oh, I'm just peachy. Yeah, you don't want to say that over there, because that that word means something completely different.
Oh, I got you.
It wasn't good.
So, all right. So you got a Mark II, and that was your entrance into the 3D printing world.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I don't guess you could have started on a better printer. I don't guess.
Well, it was between that and a Da Vinci printer.
Yeah.
So I did the research and everything else. Sorry, hold on one second. Someone's at my door. Sorry.
At least he's got on pants.
God damn it.
Oh, that's my next interview.
You gotta be shitting me.
I can't hear me. You got my next MMU. Sweet.
Wait, is Sean from IC3D here?
I haven't seen Sean yet.
All right. Well, he can watch us in the review because this is the best product placement that I've ever seen.
Oh.
Sweet. I ordered some filament from him, so I'm sorry that it was UPS knocking on the door.
Yeah, that I'm like Uncle Ron. That's a weird pizza box, dude. Is it dark there already?
Yeah, man.
It's still daylight here, man.
Well, you guys are closer to the equator. We're further up. It gets darker here sooner. In Ireland, man, in the summertime, it gets dark like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And it's messed up.
And what months is that? Do you know?
What
months does it do that, or is that all the time?
Oh, that's in the summertime.
Oh, okay. Because my daughter's going over there January to May. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the end of April. So she gets to experience some of that, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah.
No.
Bring warm clothes. Yeah, that's the best advice.
Yeah, that's the problem is that we all live in Florida and they don't sell warm clothes in Florida.
Oh, believe me, she can get them in Ireland, but because the thing is, though, with all the moisture in the air, you don't get snow, but it gets very cold. And with all that moisture, that saying, it's like, oh, it's so cold, I can feel it in my bones. That's not a saying. That's an actual thing in Ireland.
Oh, it's an actual thing in lots of places around the world.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in the Army, we found out what bone-chilling cold was.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So you started doing support from here. Okay. And it's not just support, though, because you do a lot of trade shows here.
Mm-hmm.
And maker fairs and stuff like that. And some of them, Joe Prusa comes from too, or some people from the company come from, but some you do on your own.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a guy with you from at IRF, but I don't know if he still works for the company or if he's, you know.
The other guy's name, that's Anderson Ta. He's done work with us before. He used to be in Prague, and then he came back. And during the shows, he'll go to the shows with me and help me and, represent the company. And, he's a good guy to work with and does a lot. But we do shows together when Joseph is tied up doing another show. Excuse me, due to scheduling and everything else. And plus this year he's been traveling back and forth so many different shows. He's just basically worn out right now.
Right. No, I get that. So back to your support. Your support on chat, is the majority of it technical, or is it people getting it and going, okay, how do I do this? Not really the technical side saying, hey, this is broke, help me troubleshoot. It set up and get it running.
I get everyone. Now on the Prusa website, the link for chat, it's in the eShop page. I don't know why I've been asking for it to be included other places, but primarily, it's like we get a mix of everything, or at least I get a mix of everything, where it's like, people from basic, simple questions about getting into 3D printing all the way up to dealing with people who know a lot more than me about 3D printing. And they ask very technical questions. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, but I know that the developers will be in soon. I'll send them a message. I'll email you back an answer. Okay. So it's a very broad range.
Chris Riley said 75% of Shane's chat is talking to him, and I would say 5% is talking to me. So pretty much 100% of Shane's. So Chris is the really technical guy, and I'm the dumbass that comes behind him. Yeah. And I'm going to try to keep up with some of these. Of course, we've gotten the question from Matt already. When is Prusa going to be on Amazon? We'll save that for a little while.
Yeah.
Nuru asks, what's the most frustrating type of customer you get?
It's for People, all right. So I started off as a customer, so I understand the whole frustrations with things. Um, you get something, it doesn't work, and you get aggravated. Okay.
Mhm.
And with me, I never take anything personally. I let them vent, I let them scream, yell, curse, do whatever they want to. I explain to a person where it's like, okay, you can act like this with me. I get it, but do not treat my coworkers this way, you know? But it's like the most difficult ones are the people who take things very personally,
Yeah.
and they switch it over, and it's just like, it's not like they're saying like you as a company is like, no, you, meaning me, are doing this and this and this wrong. I'm like, okay, this has just gone to a completely different level. And it all depends. I mean, I've we have a ban button and everything else. I've only hit it a few times. It's just like, because then we'll get people in there where, it's just we get our fair share of trolls, so they'll jump on the Prusa chat and just try to troll us. So I'll just block them so they can't jump in.
I got you. And Northern Fireworks asked, what excites you most about the future of 3D printing?
All the possibilities. I mean, if you sit there and look at it, like you have all the filament manufacturers all trying to come up with their own special, unique either color, blend, or anything else.
Yeah.
That, and trying to fine tune 3D printing. So, try to bring it down where it's more simplified and everything else to make it easier for people. And I think once that reaches a certain level where they can try to make it truly available for everyone, get it into the schools and make it affordable for, families to purchase and everything else. That, I think when it reaches that point, that's when you got to start seeing all the amazing things, because it'd be much more mainstream, much more public.
Well, I have to address this since he called me out on it. Actually, Shane or Carl, his question was before yours. I hadn't gotten to yours yet, but now I am going to skip it. I'm just going to skip your question altogether.
Now, play nice.
Well, he says, since it's been said that Shane knows everything, that's in quotation marks, by the way.
No.
Do you know when he'll get his palette too?
Hold on. Let me find my magic 8-ball. I need to print one of those.
Oh, yeah. And nobody knows this, but I kind of figured it out. The Northern Fireworks is Tom he's Filament Frenzy at work. So that's his work YouTube account, Northern Fireworks.
See, that. I know this isn't technically related, or technical, sorry, but one thing that I really love is the whole entire 3D printing community. It's everyone just getting so involved in this and everything, and just like really helping each other out, and encouraging everyone to do that cool print or that cool project, or do a YouTube channel, or do get on Twitter, or do whatever. Everyone's always so willing to help out everyone else, and that to me is probably about the greatest thing about 3D printing.
Right. Well, yeah, that, and I harp on that all the time. That's what this is all about, is community. Believe me, I'm not a teacher. If you're watching me to learn, you're learning by my mistakes. That's who I am, because I'm hands-on. I try to do things, and I'm semi-mechanical, but I'm much better with a car engine than I am with a 3D printer. 3D Gusner said, how often do you have to tell customers to plug in their printer and turn it on?
Surprisingly, a few times.
Yeah.
Especially when they're trying to update the board on the printer, and like it's not doing anything, and it's not doing anything. I'm like, what does it say on the LCD? I'm like, it's black. I'm like, turn the printer on, please turn the printer on.
Right.
But yeah, but I laugh about that stuff. It just makes my night more enjoyable. I don't laugh at the person, I just laugh at the situation.
Yeah, I did tech support for PCs back in 96 ish, right? And really and truthfully, you see the memes, and people have seen the memes where people call in and they're like, hey, I broke my cup holder off, or my mouse doesn't work. Well, did you take it? But because the dust cover's in the way, well, no, you got to take it out of the plastic bag, that type of thing. So yeah, I mean, you get all kinds. You absolutely do get all kinds. So, all right. So here's the question, because you've become a staple in the community. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your future plans? I mean, because right now you're doing tech support for Prusa, and that's
Mm-hmm.
great. Any aspirations, and may not want to do that publicly online. I don't know,
No,
but
it's okay. It's okay. Well, I mean, like since you already done this type of work,
yeah,
but the average lifespan of someone doing technical support is about 2 years. All right. I've
yeah,
been doing, tech support. I've been doing tech support for Prusa now for almost 2 years. I've been doing it nonstop now for almost 6 years straight.
right,
So, in general, customers are very good. Okay. But like you're listening to people with problems all the time. So it does wear on you a bit. Eventually I would like to do is like, get more involved within the community itself. I started up my little small YouTube channel just to try to actually at first it was little cheat sheets for myself.
right,
So like, if someone's trying to change something out, like remove a nozzle, remove the hot end from an MK2. I just took a very quick 10-second video. I'm like, this is how you do it, and it's a lot easier. And then I just started doing that more and more. And on my earlier videos, and the guys in the content team aren't going to see this. So in my earlier videos, I would start doing them. Then I would go to the content team. I'm like, well, can you guys help me do this? Because you guys have all the good gear and, I think we can really work on this. And then one of them sat there and said, well, I don't think it would be a good idea because in the video, it will be your hands. It won't be Joseph's hands. And people will notice that. I just sat there. I'm like, and thankfully it was written in a text message just to make sure I can go over it a few times to make sure I read, what they wrote. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'll do my own. In my older videos, I used to sit there and put in there like starring not Joseph's hands. So that was like a little insider, little joke or jab at those guys.
right.
It's just like not Joseph's hands. And so then it just continued from there. And then, I wanted to interact more with the community itself. So I just, figure I'm like, okay, well, I can do a stream. And I just basically got, a web camera and a microphone and just started rolling with it. I like to try to keep people informed of, what's going on, because I mean, like in general, say if I was a customer and at the times where, you have really long lead times, right?
Yeah.
I would be very impatient or concerned if I didn't get any type of updates or feedback or anything else from a company that they're holding my money. So I started doing the streams and everything else just to interact with people and to, try to give people a little bit of a inside or I don't want to say contact, maybe like an inside look within the company itself.
Right.
So people are, at least they know what's going on.
All right. Stephen, the Lightspeed, he said he would like to ask Shane, did Prusa rush out the MMU2 without having all the kinks worked out because of the long wait everyone experienced? It seems not to be quite perfect when it come out.
No. With the MMU2, when it did finally come out, I was involved with the beta testing of that. And between where it is now to, the prototype, there have been a lot of changes with that. And then also, unfortunately, there have been bumps in the road. You experienced this, and I think Chris experienced this as well, where the hob gears, they were different sizes and everything else.
Right.
So, once we finally figured out what was going on, the programming team developed something within the firmware. So you would do the calibration on the MMU2. It now does it on all 5, so it will kind of compensate for those slight variances. But
right.
As far as also, was it rushed or anything? One thing with the multi-material and being a company all over the world, okay, you have all these different filament manufacturers who they manufacture their filament in different ways, right? So if we were to sit there and get all the filaments from like all the major manufacturers and like from China, from Europe, from the States, everywhere, and then sit down and run everything through it and, mix them all up, see what happens. It would be probably about another year before that came out.
Oh yeah. No,
So,
I understand it now.
Yeah.
I was aggravated because, you know, for
But
the
so you
price
should
tag,
be.
for the price tag,
Mhm.
we expect to open it and be able to use it.
Yep.
And
Oh,
I was unable to do so. Okay. Now, with the new firmware, that doesn't cause as many issues.
mhm,
So I get that. And I also understand that the hob gears they use are used on the MK2. So it's not like they're special for the MMU2. So they had a
mhm,
bin full of these. And on the MK2, the difference in size and gears doesn't matter as much.
mhm,
So it wasn't something they were checking. I get that. I mean,
mhm.
so no, I understand there are going to be problems. I thought they would learn maybe a little more from the MK3 rollout because there was quite a few issues with it as well as far as
Mhm.
quality goes. You know,
Yep. Now you're right. I'm not going to sit there and be like, "Oh no, you're no whatever." You're absolutely right with that. Lessons. Some lessons were learned. Other lessons need to be revisited.
right?
But with the MK3, when they had those issues, we took that very seriously, and they had teams working on that to resolve certain issues with it and investigate a lot of other issues. Like, for example, with the inconsistent extruding the 602 issue, those guys had a whole team of everyone involved in that, from developers, programmers, slicing programmers, the firmware guys. Everyone was involved in that to try to figure that one out. And we were on social media. It's like, you know, if someone would sit there and say, "Well, I tried this and this worked perfectly for me," and everything else, we would sit there and get the same exact stuff they did, ran it back to the factory, and then tested all that out to see if we could reproduce those same results. And you know, it just wasn't able to,
Right.
you know, get to successfully eliminate that issue.
Right.
But like for right now, there's one issue. It's with the filament sensors, right? You have one on the MK2, MMU2, which is a filament, a physical sensor, right?
Right.
Little ball triggers the fender probe. You go further down, you have an optical sensor, right?
Right.
The laser and everything else. Now, with filaments for the optical sensor, uh, filament colors like red, white will mess that up. Glossy or transparent will mess that up. So that right now they're working on it so those two sensors can communicate. Because if I put in there red, white, or transparent, what's going to happen is the MMU2 is going to say, "Okay, it's loaded," and it's going to try to print, but the optical sensor is saying nothing's there when in fact there actually is something there. So that
Yeah.
is something that they're working on right now.
And I learned that and I turned mine off because of that.
Mhm.
I will say this, it's really funny because the optical sensor for like semi-transparent actually works better if you take the light blocker off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've
Okay.
found that with my transparent green and reds and blues
Mhm.
that they won't run even in single mode. They won't run without that little block off because it says there's no filament. All right,
Mm.
so let me jump back up here. Robbie Mack says he's going to contact Prusa and ask them for a custom filament color and name it just Peachy.
No, no, no.
I know that's why he said it. The MMU1 to MMU2 is still not shipped due to testing on the MK 2.5. Any word on how that's going?
The upgrade kits for the MMU1 to MMU2 just started to ship. So those are going to be rolling out. The firmware for if you already built the MK 2.5 and you just added the MMU2 last Friday, the firmware was released for that. So it's 3.4.2 is the version number. That's primarily for the MK 2.5 with the MMU2. So you'd flash those ones. But as far as the single kits, those are starting to ship.
Well, I have a question,
Mhm.
and this is from my personal experience, and this is not. I'm not asking you for support.
Mhm.
This is more of a statement and wondering why this doesn't happen because you know I've got the Harbo, the MK 2.5 upgrade I did on the printer I built. It's
Mhm.
not same dimensions or whatever. The frame isn't. When I download the latest firmware for the Mark 2.5, you know, my Z height and all that shows up just fine. It doesn't work because of my height and motors and all that stuff are different. But when I download from GitHub, the code for that it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. It doesn't show the Z height. When I try to do first layer calibration, it'll heat up, it'll go through the leveling, and then it'll just go to home and stop. It won't do anything. It just sits there and runs the SD percentage up like it's printing. I mean, it's just bloop, 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 and I still get that, even though I'm back down to 3.3.1. I got it working the other day. Still, sometimes when I hit print, it'll just go to home and it'll sit in there, and the SD card will just run up like it's printing, and it's hot. It's heated. It's not extruded plastic. It's not doing anything.
But it's just not continuing on.
Yeah. Well, I'm just wondering why the firmware that they check into GitHub as a release isn't the same exact code that they released. That's my biggest question.
The files that are on our driver page are basically directly linked to the GitHub. The GitHub page is the main source of the firmware files. Okay. We release them on GitHub first. So then, for the more diehard, the more updated customers, they know where to go to get that. Normally what happens is it will go through GitHub, through the release candidate, through beta, and then once it releases the final stage, then it's posted up on the driver page. But there's still, if I go to the driver's page, click on firmware, it's going to pull the final release version from GitHub.
Right. Lightspeed did ask about the MMU2 or the optical filament sensor, but you kind of covered that, why the handoff isn't handled by that. Because really, truthfully, the distance between the optical sensor and the gears. That's pretty much a given as far as the extruder goes. So yeah, it would make sense that when that sees that filament, it would know how far it needs to go to those gears. And if you work that out, then you do away with the calibration need anyway.
Right.
Or for the most part, I would say you could do it once to see when the filament sensor is seeing it, but with your different colored filaments, you're going to have that different trigger, or not at all. All right. So let me try to catch up because I'm falling behind. They're asking a lot. Yeah, that's what Gusner just said. Exactly what I just said. Sean did get here. So he said that you got your package. That's awesome.
Yep. Sean, yeah, I know you have to watch the replay. It was perfect product placement.
Nuru said he's still disappointed in his MMU2, and he actually had several prints in a row that were quite nice. So,
there's, and I'm not trying to talk, generally speaking, and this isn't addressed to anyone in particular. I was invited to do the 3D printing community hangout, and, due to time difference, Joseph couldn't do it because it would be in the middle of the morning for him, this, that, and everything else. And they invited me on. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll talk about it. And then they didn't tell me. They were like, oh yeah, the one of the main guys from Mosaic will be there too. I'm like, oh great. But I mean, like, it was after myself and the guy from Mosaic. I apologize, I don't remember his name off the top of my head. But we were talking about afterwards. I mean, like, with multi-material printing, it's a lot more fine tuning, it's not unfortunately, it's not as simple as just setting up the print and go. There's other small little things you got to tweak and set up. And, YouTubers will show off these great multi-material prints, but they don't really show how many failed attempts it was to get to that, or how long it took them to reach that level. So it is a learning curve. And again, I'm not telling everyone, it's like, well, you need to learn more, you're just not at that stage. Stick with it. You have great support from the community itself, people who have firsthand knowledge. It's like, well, hey, I use Amazon filament and everything else. You more than likely, you will probably find someone who uses the same filament, and they're like, well, this is what worked for me. And you're just going back and forth. And then also you can always contact me on chat and see what I can do for you, Right. And I'm sorry, I'm watching I can see the little broadcast, the replay from the YouTube.
Yeah.
I apologize. I talk way too much with my hands.
That's all right. Don't watch it. Don't watch the video stream while we're doing it, man. Come on, just put a stop. I've got you up over here, but I clicked the stop button. So
yeah. I pulled it up for the chat so I can see it real quick.
All right, so let me get to this. Shane, is that tarantulas in the vivariums behind you?
You know what? I actually asked my my fiance's kids, I asked the kid, I'm like, all right, what's in the cage behind me exactly? Because people do ask. It is a Amazon boa constrictor. It is 3 gargoyle geckos, 1 corn snake, and then I have a chameleon over there.
Okay. Well, that was his next statement, or reptiles. So
Reptiles.
And 3D Gusner says it's my compiling, and he did tell me to send him my changes, and I haven't done it. The problem is that I have the Arduino software. I get the files from GitHub and I compile them. If it's my compiling, then I need to know what I need to change in my setup so that I can compile them. And I don't know if there's a follow on GitHub or whatever, what version of the Arduino software they use to compile their code or whatever. But I may send them mine and say, okay, send me the hex, because that would get me up to speed with my MK 2.5 and it would be better. Okay. So let me get on down. I
got to answer trolling for dollars question though.
You can't jump ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm just highlighting it to make sure to ask his.
Yeah, no, I'm going to ask it. I think it was Martin that asked. Yeah. Question for Shane. Since 3D printing is your job, what hobbies do you do in your downtime?
I'm just a typical nerd, when I relax, I just like to sit back into gaming or watching a sci-fi movie and everything else. But for the most part, what I really try to do is, I'm off on the weekends and I always try to do something with my fiance just to get out of the house and just, do something that's not 3D printing related or tech related or anything else, at least for one weekend day, and then I'm trying to get more back into doing the live streams. So hopefully I can get her more involved in it. So it's like, it would be an interesting mix of like, recreational time and still doing work stuff, but more enjoyable things or more things I'm interested in.
I got you. Well, did you have gray hair before you were a beta tester?
Yes, I did have gray hair before I was a beta tester.
You look like one of those early gray guys.
Oh, I was. And plus, I was married to an interesting woman who drove me crazy. So a lot of it's from that.
Okay, Gusner, I will do that. He said search GitHub issues for compiling and there I'll find a comment. So I will do that. But if I don't find them, I may just send you. It's only like 3 changes you have to make in the damn config file. So, all right, yeah. And Carl says still no Scorpion.
Nope. I offered the kids $100 if they could find that thing, and they can't find it. Now we have field mice in the house, but thank God, the cats are finally doing something.
And Nuru brings up a good point with the MMU2. Because I've had success, and they can't see me, but you can see that, right? You can see my gecko.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you notice right there, see that line?
All
right. Well, I did the multicolor snake as well, right?
Yeah.
I had a couple failures, but that was my fault, doing stupid stuff. And then I got one that completed. I got up the next morning, it was completed. It has the same line, almost the same height. I could go get it and show it to you, but it's a skipped layer. And I don't know what's causing it, because it continued on and there was no under extrusion. As a matter of fact, even in the skipped layer, there's some of it that's solid. It's like I don't know. It's like the filament sensor doesn't know it's there or something. I'm not sure.
It could have been a few different things. It could have been a misload. So instead of it going all the way down where it's supposed to be, it could have hit a little bit of friction and then backed off a bit. It could have been a part in the filament itself where it's slightly out of spec, so it didn't feed through the gears all the way.
Right.
It could also possibly be.
Then it just caught up on the next layer. I mean, you know what I mean?
Right. It could be. There's. I mean, I can sit there right now and say, okay, fine, grab the filament. Check the diameter of the filaments. And you want to get the average of it, because it really needs to be with all the operations back and forth, doing all the filament swaps and everything else. Having filament that's in spec is very important. And then, like I said, if it's constantly happening, you could be hitting like a friction point with it loading and unloading where it just snags, and it just needs to snag just a little tiny bit, and it'll kind of throw that off a little on the loading. But then when it unloads, it triggers the fender. Right. So when it loads back again, it will be right back at that same spot. So there's several different things you can check out. And Neuro, if you're having constant problems, you know how to reach me on Prusa chat.
Some of my prints turn out just fine. And everybody's seen the dragon where, hopefully they'll fix that in Slick 3R where you can't put the purge block inside your model as somebody did.
Yeah.
Because, I didn't even pay attention. It was like that was my first sliced model. And I was just so excited. I was looking at the dragon going, oh, it's cool. So I take it down, and I'm watching, make sure the colors change. Well, then I just printed, but then it got to the top of the wing and the purge block just kind of merged in the wing. So
yeah, I did see that. I did get a link for your video with the timestamp.
Yeah.
And I sent it over to the guys to take a look at.
27-hour print that, it's not ruined, but it's like, oh yeah, well, that would have been better had it not done that. And Busy said he replaced the MK3 filament sensor with a custom board that works much better with problematic filament. And Busy, tweet me on Twitter at Kuntry3D and let me know what that is, because that's absolutely true. 3D Gusner, I made you an admin. Send me a link to that video because I want to know about that line. That's for sure. Okay. All right. So let me go down through here. I got to read this from James at Print and Play.
Okay.
Red, I tell you what, give a thumbs up. Don't be a bro.
Yeah, you have 2 thumbs up.
My brother James, my favorite Canardian. All right. Filament Frenzy says since the new firmware, he hadn't had one failure with the MMU2. Now I did make some changes. I've watched Chris Warkocki's videos. So like my PTFE tubes that come from the back, I've shortened mine. They're about 3 inches long now. Instead of having the long PTFE tube that goes down to the thing, they're only about 3 inches long. So there's a whole lot less friction now than there was. I have not done a print with it yet. And I'm wondering, and I'm going to ask you, because I left them long enough that I can reuse the other PTFE tubes. But I'm going to ask you, what's the downside to that? Do you see a lot of, would you think there'd be a lot of kinking or something in filament as it backs it out? Because it backs out quite a lot of filament,
Well, it depends on really how the roll is wound. If you have you get some rolls where you can just tell it's badly wound, and it's all over the small kinks. If it can if it damages the tube, yeah, you could have some problems. I know what you're saying. You had them cut short and everything. I can't speak from personal experience on that one. I can set it up and test it myself. Well, I just need time to get back to you.
The thing that really gets me though, because I don't know that it was his video I saw it on. It may have been another one. And, it's kind of like what Chris did with his. I don't think he shortened his quite as much, but he's got his rolls just hanging there, and he's not using any of the filament.
Yep. Yeah. It could also be, I did bring that up because also there's some other guys, Filament Frenzy did one as well, where the spools are hanging on the wall and they're feeding down behind the printer and everything else. So it could be an issue of the rollers being not giving enough. So there's some friction there, kind of dragging it and everything else. I did bring that up. It's in with the developers for them to look at. And, it's one thing that's possible. Like for example, we had the rep box down at New York Maker Faire, and to me, it worked very well, and I'm trying to look at the area that I have set up where I can try a similar thing where I can just hang the spools freely and let them do it. It's very similar to how Mr. Riley has it set up.
Right. And I haven't tried mine yet. Since I cut them off, I haven't tried it at all. So that's something I want to do. Got a couple of boxes of filament here to try. And that we're caught up on questions. So that's cool. So how much has it shifted now? Your support, how much has it shifted to the MMU2 versus say the MK3? Because the MK3 is pretty much hammered out. It's pretty,
Well, for the MK3, I'll still get some issues, whether it be assembly or shipping issues or packing issues or anything else. So it's still a fair mix. With troubleshooting the MMU2, it does take longer. So it's a lot of, okay, try this, do this. Did that work? Nope. Okay, try this next thing, and you go further. So I mean, like, it's still a good mix, and since the release of the MMU2, it does take a little bit longer, so it kind of backs up the amount of stuff that I can do, the amount of people that I can deal with. But I'd say right now it's like a good 50-50 mix as far as troubleshooting goes between the MMU2 and the MK3. But I mean, like, a lot of stuff with the MK3, I can just say, I'm reading what they're typing, and they're like, oh, it's doing this, and I'm already typing out what to do to fix it.
Right.
So,
well, let me ask you this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you got an MK2, but do you have any other printers that aren't Prusa?
No.
Okay.
It's just because
because somebody asked what is your favorite, what is your second favorite printer versus a Prusa? But if you don't have any, I mean, really, I'm going to weigh in on that.
Well, and besides, I mean, like, in all honesty, I mean, like, people will tell me, they're like, they'll come on chat and they have questions about 3D printing, and they're like, well, why don't you tell me why I should buy your printer? I can't honestly do that. I'm going to be biased. I work for the company, right? So I tell people, do the research. Here's reviews. Here's reviews for this printer, that printer, da 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 da. And so, like, for me, I primarily work, for Prusa. So I have a bunch of printers here that I use for various, for testing, for my own stuff and everything. So even if I had another, I'll give you guys later. I'll try to take some photos so you guys can see what I have. But I mean, like, I really couldn't honestly give a unbiased opinion on that.
Right.
I work for the company.
Well, Filament Frenzy asks, what's your favorite print? It's got to be that little sheep in MMU2. That's all I ever see you for.
Yeah, I know. Tom and his sheep. That actually, there was one guy. Man, hold on. Let me see, because I want to make sure I get his name right, because he's on Thingiverse. He does a lot of prints for multi-material. His name is Roman Tier. He actually did up that sheep, the one that we were using first for the prototype, the one that I sent you the other time.
Yeah.
So he took one of the Boba Fett, Marvin Fett ones, and he sliced it up for multi-material for me and everything else. Right now, that's probably about my favorite one, just because it's a little bit of a personal attachment.
Right.
But I love the ones, since I'm a nerd, I have a thing for, like, the cosplay designs and the robotic ones. Those are probably about my favorite types of prints now.
Now, this statement from Robbie Mack, I have to say I agree with. They should make filament boxes like cable and wire boxes with a grommet. That way you don't have to hang a spool. Just set the box somewhere, because you get a wire box and it's got a little hole in it, so you can just pull. And the wire rolls out because it's got a spindle in the middle. If they made filament boxes like that, I understand the problems, though, because you vacuum pack filament. So you would have to take it out. You'd have to assemble that box yourself. But I still think that would be a good idea if you had a box that had a way that you could make it your filament feeder.
Yep. I noticed that, man, I think maybe Tom can help me out with this one. I'm pretty sure it was.
He said there's a company that does that with filament now.
Yeah, it's Rigid Ink, I think, if I remember correctly. But also there was a design on Thingiverse from a few years ago, but it was kind of like a similar setup to that, where they were stackable, right? So you could wall mount those things and then just have the filament come straight off of there.
Yeah, Tom did reaffirm it is Rigid Ink.
Yep. Okay, cool.
So, you were talking about showing everybody around your office or whatever, but we've already done an hour. We've been doing this an hour already.
Oh, okay. Well, no, I mean, I'll show you later in a different stream. I still have to. I'm not saying this place is a mess.
I was just saying, I know the hour goes by so fast. A lot of people are like, "What? That's an hour already?" So, guys, if y'all have questions for Shane, go ahead and get them in, because we're gonna wrap up with those. And I think we've learned quite a bit, where he's been, where he's from, what he's done. Well, he skipped a few years. He might have forgotten those.
Huh? What? I didn't forget anything.
By things that he was doing.
Let's see. We'll leave out Texas and California. Those things never happened.
Yeah. Robbie Mack says, damn, first NASA steals my pizza printer idea, and now these guys steal my filament box idea. Clearly, I am a man behind time.
I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, Turin Karn said those are the Amsterdam years.
Basically. It's kind of like, the Vegas thing. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
It was really funny. I was stationed in Germany, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we would do company trips. The whole company, you could sign up to go on these trips. Well, we went to Spain one time, and we stopped in this little town in France, right outside of Lyon, France, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they had a bar there. It was called the Babyfoot Bar and Grill, and it was quarter a cup draft beer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We dropped 40 18 to 23-year-old US GIs on this bar at one time. I think they ran out of beer.
Oh, yeah.
And a buddy of mine, and I've got the picture somewhere, but he's wearing a shirt, right? And it's really funny because I caught him when I took the picture. I caught him. He was kind of leaned over, and his shirt says, "I'm not as think as you drunk I am." And it was just hilarious. And in the background, you can see this Babyfoot Bar and Grill quarter cup draft beer sign right outside of Lyon, France.
Oh, yeah.
So do you see yourself, staying in the States mostly now? You're planning on staying here? I know that you have a fiance. I've seen pictures on Facebook. She doesn't ever come on camera. The kids will walk through every now and again, but I don't think I've ever seen her on one of your streams.
She was on one. She thought it would be really cool just to walk behind me and take the chameleon and just pop it on my head.
I did see that. I did, for sure.
But
she definitely needs to come in and join you sometimes, like, Miss Country.
Oh, yeah.
So people
Definitely
rather look at them than us.
Of course.
And it's really cool because you got that nice, neat, trim beard, right? Yeah, it is.
It's not trimmed.
Nice and shaped, all scraggly and crap. But anyway, all right. Are you going to Orlando Maker Faire?
Right now, I am waiting to hear back from the guys from Prague because on that one, I know they're attending another show that weekend, right? If it was up to me, I'll go to every show, right? No. But it's also a thing of like, logistics and all that other stuff. So if it's possible, they will. If not, then they'll let me know. But I also know that, some of the guys have been asking a lot on Twitter and everything else. So, and Joseph replied to a comment about Orlando Maker Faire. So, hey, honey. Wait,
there she is.
Hold on 1 second. Come here. They want to say, come on.
Yeah,
she got tattooed.
Got to say hey to the Country Club. She can't hear me.
Hold on. Give her 1 second.
Oh my God.
She can't hear me.
Oh my God.
Come here.
I'm going to kill you.
You can kill me later. It's okay. See, this is when view counts go up.
Right? I know, right?
This is Walter.
Oh, I watch you all the time.
Hey, how are you? You can't hear me, though, can't you?
No. Well, hold on.
Oh, no.
Now you can talk a lot of crap.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, Shane's just nuts, right?
Do you know how long I've known him?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, we went through his whole life story during this interview.
But unauthorized biography.
This is the interview?
Yeah.
Oh,
you're
okay.
Fine, you're fine.
All right, okay.
You're fine.
You're live to the Country Club. So how is it though, being the spouse of somebody inside of this 3D printing community?
Yeah. Okay. One thing you have to know about Shane is that he is, oh my God, a slob like I've never seen in my life. Like he scared me when we were 18. He moved back here from Prague and he hasn't learned anything since we were 18 because he scares the hell out of me.
You're making him turn red. You know that, right?
If you could see what I'm looking at,
no,
it's
not just Shane though. Let me tell you though, it's really not just Shane. If I turn my camera around so you could see my desk and my office, it's total disaster.
Everything's nice right there.
Yeah, everything looks good right here behind me.
Yeah.
But on the floors, there's boxes. I miss the trash can a lot. It stays on the floor, that type of thing. So.
Yeah. So I'm guessing you and Shane were separated at birth.
maybe so. But,
yeah, because you're pretty much describing what I'm looking at, and it horrifies the hell out of me.
He's become a good friend. He really is a good guy.
Oh, he's awesome. He's awesome.
But you need to come to one of these maker fairs where I'm going to be so we can hang out though.
He's working on it. As long as I don't have to fly. I don't like flying.
Well, see, my wife has never flown. We're actually flying her for the first time next month to go see our new grandbaby.
Oh, that's right. Congratulations. You were talking about her this morning or yesterday. Mm-hmm. Either way, her name is beautiful. I love the name.
Yes. Yeah. Her sister's name is Journey and her name is Everly. So
beautiful.
But yeah, they're in Phoenix. So my wife has never flown, so she's flying to Phoenix for the next month. So.
Hope you got her a one-way, no layovers, because those are scary.
No, we got a layover in Atlanta. I'm going with her. I mean,
okay. I thought you were sending her on her way.
No, I would never do that her first time. Not through Atlanta. No. But it was so nice talking to you. But
it was nice talking to you.
Really love meeting you in person.
Oh yeah, we can. I'm sure we'll arrange that.
Okay.
Okay. It was nice talking to you.
You too.
All right. Okay. Bye-bye. You're so dead. You are so dead.
What's up?
She's like, you're so dead. So, when you guys don't see me, in 2 hours on work chat, she killed me.
Yeah. Mike asked, do the trade show type events help extend the 2-year burnout? I don't get.
They help. They help me with not extend it, but they kind of like, they recharge your batteries, because when you're at those shows, you can speak for this yourself. You get a lot of new people like, wow, this is so cool. I really want to get interested in it, and everything else. You see that spark in their eye, that excitement, and it just kind of recharges your batteries. And like for me, also doing the streams, it's the same thing. It recharges the batteries, you're interacting with people and you're getting, you can sense that same type of excitement or, ingenuity in the things that they're doing and everything. So for me, the trade shows and the YouTube stuff, that is my own therapy.
Yeah. And the cool thing is like, doing like I do the live streams and building 3D printers and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's never old because there's always new things happening. Mm-hmm. But it's really cool to get that boost by going around a crowd that's doing the same thing, and you see these new things that other people are doing, and it excites you again. Yeah. It's kind of like putting a log on the fire. Put another log on the fire. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of what it's like. So yeah, that I can see where that helps out a lot.
Oh, it does.
Carl says that's every maker. Our rooms only look good by camera angle.
Oh, exactly.
Kryptonic Loser says geniuses always are messy. So, and Big Steve asks, is she aware she has an audience?
No, I'll tell her later.
Yeah, I don't think she knew. I think she just thought she was talking just to me.
Yep. Because if she finds out, she'll take a frying pan and hit me over the head.
Right. So and her Boston accent's a little stronger than yours.
Oh yeah. For sure.
That's cool. And Tom asked, is that Mrs. Shane from Prusa? Yes, it was, Tom.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, cool. All right, so we're coming up on 7:08. All right, so question. The SLA printer that has now gotten. Do we know when that's coming out? Because I hadn't really paid attention to it.
The expected shipping date, last I heard, was in December. So they are working on it. What it is, it's back in, I forget which month it was, but it was Switzerland Maker Fair. Joseph was giving a talk, and he made the announcement that they purchased a Czech SLA printing company. So instead of going in there and replacing all their employees and everything else, we just kind of basically absorbed them into our company. And so now those guys are working on it. And we showed it off in New York, and we also had one of the lead developers there with us for the SL1 at the New York Maker Fair.
Well, you need to make it known that he's going to need more U.S. support. And you've got this guy that likes to talk that would love to do that. Fun King, we did actually cover that question, but he said he's waiting on the answer from Prague, so he's got to wait and see what they say. So he's asked about it, and he's put the bug in their ear. So that's what it is. Now, are there many printer companies in Prague?
Directly, not that I'm aware of. I have seen like a very few small companies that develop their own rep, but it's very trying to think, I think there's only about 2 that I know of, to be honest with you. As far as I know, I mean, I'm sure if I try to ask around and look around again now, I'm sure there's probably a few that try to, spring up and get used to, try to jump on board, let's say, and see what they can do. But as far as like with 3D printing and in the Czech Republic, the only thing I know, there's us as far as the printing company. There's Filamentum. It's a filament, obviously a filament company, and then there's one other filament company in the Czech Republic that I know of. So I mean, that's kind of like the big 3 as far as printing in the Czech.
Okay. 3D Guzner asked, and I'm going to ask this directly because I don't know what he's talking about. Did a better name for the curing washing device as Kurwa? In Polish, it means something you don't want to say. So,
I'm not sure. I mean, I know they're still bouncing around with the name and everything else, but 3D Gusner, I think we follow each other on Twitter. You can why don't you tweet me what it means, and then I'll post it in the internal chat. Okay. So I know we have a few 2 people from Poland. No, 3 people from Poland working for us in Prague. So I'll run it by them as well. Be the first thing I do.
And let's see here. I don't know. The question from Filament Frenzy was Tri-Labs, but I don't know anything about that.
I'm not sure. I would literally have to look it up because, like I said, I remember I was shopping around for a few places, but I know there was one place, but I remember the printer was just very expensive for me at the time, so I just went for a Prusa one.
All right, Matt asked, "What's the best thing about working for Prusa?"
I know this is going to sound like I'm pandering to the audience, but I mean, it's being involved in the community. For me personally, I'm much more of a person, people person than a tech guy, and for me, it's interacting with people and everything else, when I'm working, I don't try to sound like a robot. I don't go off a script. I just, I treat people the way I would want to be treated, and I try to have fun doing it, and I get to meet people from all over the place. So for me, that's what it is. It's dealing with the community.
Tom said Tri-Labs is a Delta company in Prague. So, quick question: is Prusa and Filamentum connected in any way?
They're not partners, but they just have a very good business relationship. I mean, we sell their filament through our eShop as well, and it's just they're just good business friends. But there's no official link or anything else like that. We're not business partners.
Matt said he just ordered his peachy Prusa mint from Amazon.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Robbie Mack said, "Great. Now Prusa stole my peach filament idea."
Yeah, I'm just picturing like, some of my Czech colleagues that watch this later and they're just gonna be like, "Really? You had to say that one, huh?"
Yeah. And Tom says the connection is the base material.
I'm sorry?
Tom said the connection is the base material. So, yeah, tell her that all 350 people she was talking to said hello.
You want to see her murder me right now?
Yes, that would be awesome. We could do a snuff film.
Hold on one second. What'd you say?
No, what did you say?
They want you to know that all 350 people that saw you on camera absolutely fell in love with you. And you're awesome.
Thank you.
That's exactly. That was perfect. Even though we've only had a max of 55 people. I said that was perfect, even though we've only had a max of about 55 people. So
I'm just keeping an eye on that. I don't like all of a sudden she turns around the corner and throws a bat at me or something.
No. Tarantulas would be way more fun.
Oh, thanks. I said about the bat. She's like, "Oh no, tarantulas would be way more fun to throw at you." Yeah. Great.
All right, guys. Well, I mean, we have reached an hour and 15 minutes. I appreciate everybody being here. I'm going to click over now and say my goodbyes. Shane, you can go ahead and tell them later and all that stuff. Tell them tell them where to find you on Twitter and YouTube and stuff like that.
Well, let's see. I am on Twitter and on YouTube under the name of Shane from Prusa. It's fairly easy to find me on that, or Twitter at From Prusa is my Twitter handle. If you guys need to reach me for work stuff, it's Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. till 12:30 a.m. Eastern time. I'm on chats if you guys have problems, you need help, and that's where I'm at.
Sweet, man. All right, I'm going to click over and say bye, and I'll be back with you in a minute, Shane.
All right.
Well, guys, thank you for being here and the great questions. I do appreciate it. And I think we learned a lot more about Shane than we probably should know, but it was fantastic, man. And I want to appreciate Shane for coming on here. He had to take out of his night of typing on the keyboard, being a keyboard warrior, to do this for us. So we will not be on here tomorrow night because my daughter has a football game, and I am still on the fence about Friday. I knew I said I'd have an answer. Still on the fence about that. I have to go get a tractor to start cleaning up my yard. So I don't know if I'm going to be on here Friday. If you see a notification, then yes, it'll be 6 o'clock. If not, then I will see you Saturday morning bright and early. Hopefully won't have any more issues like we had last Saturday. But thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up. If not, give us a thumbs down. Leave a comment anyway. Treat each other as you want to be treated. And y'all come back to the Kuntry Club.